Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining our live tour. I'm going to make a short announcement in Mandarin and we'll switch back to English in a minute. 大家好，我是静蕊，是84000的执行负责人。欢迎你们前来参与我们这次的阅读室的导览。由于时间的关系，这次的导览将以英文进行，但是我们已经准备好了中文的字幕，希望对您有帮助。如有问题的话，欢迎您在后面的问答时段向我们提问。谢谢你。So, everybody, my name is Jing Rui, and I'm the Executive Director of 84,000. This is one of several online tours that 84,000 is holding to orient people to our newly opened reading room. This is your reading room, and we invite you to visit it often and hope that this call will help familiarize you with its initial content and features. I'm delighted that Jeff Wallman, TBRC's Executive Director and also the Chair of 84,000's Technology Committee, is here with us today, and he will be leading our live tour. One logistical matter before we begin. To improve the sound quality, we will be muting everyone except the presenters until we get to the Q&A at the end. However, if you have questions along the way, please feel free to type them into the chat box, and we'll either answer them as we go along or we'll come back to them during the Q&A. 84,000's long-term vision is that the reading room will eventually hold translations of the entire Buddhist canon, the Ganjur and the Tenjur, in English and other modern languages. So this is just our beginning. We have published 8 translations in English. These are among the first translations funded by 84,000 to the Sakya Pandita Translation Group and the Dharma Chakra Translation Committee. With 10% of the Ganjur already in the process of being translated through 2 rounds of grants made by us to translators, you can expect to see a steady flow of new translations from now on. The mission of 84,000 is to translate the words of the Buddha and to make them available to everyone. Until now, 95% of the Buddha's teachings have only been available in classical Tibetan. As the number of people who can translate and interpret these texts dwindles, the Tibetan canon has become more and more endangered. A meeting in Beer, India in March 2009 underscored the importance of saving the Tibetan canon by translating it into English and other modern languages over the next century. That meeting gave birth to the Buddhist Literary Heritage Project, which has now evolved into 84,000. 84,000 is nothing less than a documentary preservation effort intended to prevent an entire library of text about the science of mind, human ethics, and peace and compassion from being lost from the world forever. To be sure, these translations are welcomed by people like you, who are students of Buddhism, and by religious and humanities scholars, for whom having direct access to authentic translations of the words of the Buddha in your own native language is priceless. But the relevance of these translations is much broader than that. The words of the Buddha are the very heart of an ancient tradition that belongs to all of humanity and is an important heritage of the world that ought to be preserved. These texts show nothing less than how to cultivate wisdom and compassion to achieve lasting peace and happiness, and they are as relevant today as 2,500 years ago when the Buddha was living and teaching. This reading room that we are showing you today is the result of a partnership between 84,000 and the Tibetan Buddhist Resource Center, and I'm very pleased that TBRC has been vital to our effort in 2 ways. First of all, it is the repository of the source Tibetan texts that our translators work with. Under the leadership of the late Gene Smith, the entire Tibetan Ganjur and Tenjur have been digitally preserved in the original Tibetan and Sanskrit. Second, TBRC has developed a technology platform for the reading room that is secure and user-friendly and that makes it possible to adapt to inevitable technology changes in the future. So I'm done. I want to welcome Jeff, and thank you, Jeff, for all that you have done. Before you begin this live tour, would you mind saying a bit more about the reading room technology?
Sure, and thank you very much, Jingrui, and welcome everyone. Good morning and good evening, wherever you are. It's morning here in New York time, and there obviously is a lot to discuss related to the technology, but there's just a few things I wanted to highlight right now. And if there are other things that you're interested in discussing, or if I don't cover them, please feel free to ask questions during the Q&A. The technology platform is secure, and it's totally separate from 84,000. It's secure in the sense that we have a very rigorous backup system, and we store multiple copies in multiple locations. This is an archiving paradigm, and basically what that means is that multiple copies of the translations are stored in multiple locations. And multiple locations, not just in the U.S., but around the world. The other aspect of the, I'm getting a lot of echo, so. The other aspect of security, I'm sorry, related to the technology platform is that it's open source, and that what this means is that the underlying software that the reading room is written in is written in software that is basically community managed. It's not commercial enterprise, and these communities are very large, and so as technology changes, these communities adapt the software to changes in technology, and they're tried and true technologies with large user groups. So it's secure, open source, stored in multiple copies in multiple locations around the world, and totally separate from the 84,000 organizational website. So that's what I wanted to mention about the technology.
Great. Thank you, Jeff. So shall we start the tour then?
Sure. Basically, there's, I think that my screen will be shared now. This is the reading room, the lobby view, what we call the lobby view of the reading room. I'll mention the three views in a second. And the way that you get to the reading room is via the 84,000 website. So you go to 84,000.co here, and you click on Reading Room right there, and you get to the reading room. The other way is simply just to type in read.84,000.co, and that will take you directly to this page. This is the main page of the reading room, the first page that you see when you enter, and this view is we call the lobby view. It's basically the lobby that you enter in when you first arrive. The other two views I'll just mention, and then I'll go into them in a little more depth, is the section view. We call the section view, and that's you enter the section view by clicking on one of the tiles down here. You can see it says Reading Room, Conjure, and then here are the sections. The Discipline Vinaya, Perfection of Wisdom, Avatamsaka, Ratnakuta, General Sutra, and so on and so forth. That you enter the section view by clicking there. The last view that we provide in the reading room is the translation view, and I will go into that in a lot more depth in a minute. The translation view is actually interacting with the translation itself. So just to point a few things out in the lobby view here, you have basically you have three sections. The recent translations here, you have the featured translation, and then, like I said, the section, the reading room section, which highlights the sections of the reading room, of the Conjure, actually, in this case. And as time goes on, we'll be adding, obviously, more sections to this reading room that as the translation process unfolds. They'll be added here. The other thing to note is that there's a bar up at the top, which is the branding, which is the 84,000 logo. Above that, you actually see a little what we call breadcrumb. It's navigation, and that's activated once you enter into one of the sections, and I'll show you that in a minute. The other very important piece is that the sponsors. This is a link to the sponsors, and in the Dharma project, it's very important to acknowledge the contribution of the sponsors, without whom projects such as this are not possible to engage in. When you click on that link, you're taken back to the 84,000 website, and here is a list of the sponsors here. So I think I'll go into a little more detail about this. The recent translation sections actually are recently published translations. So this is a good place to come back to and take a look at what's new. This upcoming year in 2012 we'll be publishing more translations, so you can see those at a glance here in this section. The other section to point out is the featured translation section. That's here, and that has a single translation that's selected by the editorial committee to be displayed in the lobby of the reading room. Moving down to the reading room section view of the Conjure, you'll see each tile is highlighted as you hover over your mouse. You can just sort of move your mouse around and see that it gets highlighted as soon as your mouse hits the hot area. And these are the sections of the Tibetan Conjure. And you see these images are actually taken from the Conjure itself, from the block print of the Conjure, and we just created little tiles based on those block prints. So these come directly from the Tibetan Conjure. And then the little number in the upper left-hand corner is how many translations in that view are available in that section. So you can see that in the Vinaya section, we have not completed any translations. However, if you look at the General Sutra section here, you see that we've completed 6 translations, and in the Tantra section, we've completed 2. So that's what that number means. Other things to note on this page, just generally the look and feel is a modern look and feel, and we've added some traditional iconography. It's very important. The iconography has a lot of meaning. So we wanted to include some of the traditional iconography, and again, the sponsors link and the logo. So that's what I wanted to talk about, the lobby view. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask during the Q&A. Let's go into a section. And I think I'll select the General Sutra section. Section view is very interesting for a couple of reasons. Here, as you click into this section, you see at the breadcrumb now it says Reading Room General Sutra. That means that if you want to get back to the home page, you can either click your back button or click Reading Room, and it takes you back to the home page. In the section view, you see the 6 completed translations are sorted at the top, and then underneath those, there are all the text in this section, just the titles, translated into 3 languages: Tibetan, English, and Sanskrit. And these 3 language views of all the titles in this section are completed for the sutra section. And this is very interesting in and of itself. I find it very, it's wonderful to just kind of scroll down this list and read some of the titles. It's really kind of a taste of what's upcoming, but it also gives one sort of a glimpse into the Conjure itself in English. And these titles have never been translated like this, just the titles alone. So it's very exciting to see at a glance the incredible variety of material, of literature, and of material, of wisdom that's in the Tibetan Conjure. The other thing to note is that each text has a complete bibliographic entry. It has varying titles in Tibetan and Sanskrit and English. These variant titles are very important because these texts are known differently throughout time, and so we try to capture as many variant titles as is known about each text. This is important in the ongoing identification of what is being translated. The other thing to note is there's a Tohoku number, which is a catalog of the Tibetan Conjure that is sort of the de facto standard for how to reference and identify and locate the various sections of the Conjure. So that's what I wanted to say about the section view, and now I will go into a translation view. So move to the top. You can actually get to a translation in a variety of ways, but within the section at the top, you simply just click on one of these panels that's highlighted. It's a hot panel. And when you click in, you see actually a full screen reading room view of the translation. And it's laid out in a sort of a Western book format. And these are actually the translations that the translator worked on that we converted into an XML format and stored in our library software that is presented on the web like this. So it's quite wonderful to see the whole translation here. And just to note, it's a complete document. What does that mean? Well, it has the title page title with all of the variant titles listed. And you'll also see when I clicked here and the page is too big for this fixed screen view, a scroll bar at the right appears. That's how you scroll up and down. You may have tried to hit the reading room when it first launched and didn't see that, and that was actually something that we fixed right away, which was the visibility of the scroll bar to make sure that people could grab onto it and move it up and down. The other aspect of the translation, you have the title page title, which has all the variant titles, the location of the text inside the Dege Conjure, volume 59, Tohoku 171, and then it's translated by the Sakya Pandita translation group. You move to the next page, and you see over in the left here that it's publication information. It's published by 84,000 in 2011. Here's the website address, and it's published under what's called a Creative Commons license. If you click this link, you could read more about Creative Commons. This is a web standard, copyright standard under the open access paradigm of the internet, and basically this is different than, say, a standard copyright. This is the license agreement for you in this text, and that means that you can copy it and print it for non-commercial uses and share it as much as you'd like. Excuse me. And so the next section here you'll see is basically the contents. You'll have a summary, translator summary, acknowledgments, translator's introduction, the translation itself, bibliography, and endnotes. Moving on, I wanted to point out too, these little arrows allow you to go back and forth, and these are always visible, and they highlight when you hover over them. So if you go to the next section, you can read the translator's summary. And then the next, and underneath that, there's acknowledgments. There's acknowledgments about the translation process. And then the next section here is the translator's introduction. So there's an introduction. As you can continue to go through, As you continue to step through the translation, you can just simply read the translation and scroll down and view the whole page and read the whole page. And you'll notice there's these different colors here. Actually, clicking on one activates the glossary. And the glossary is a 3-language glossary in English, Tibetan, and Sanskrit. And with each notion, each term, there is a brief English description of what that term is. The different types of elements in the glossary are principal terms, personal names, and place names. So once you activate the glossary, then if you want to hide the glossary, you just go up into Options. So here I'm clicking around these terms to see what they mean. And if I want to hide the glossary, if I just want to continue reading, I'm just going to Options and Hide Glossary. And that takes me back to the full screen. Moving through the translation itself, you can just click through, and at the end of the translation, you see then endnotes and a full bibliography of the texts that were used in the translation. In addition, we provide, the translators provide credits and obviously notes and so forth, and these are all included in the translation if they exist. Some of the features not implemented are cross-linking between, right now, between the endnotes. So if you see an endnote here, what is it, endnote 8, you can't link from the text to the endnote yet. Some of the other things that we're doing right now is a PDF download. Right now this is just available in this web view like this, but coming soon we'll have in Options you'll see Download PDF. Two of the other things that are not implemented right now fully are Search, and then which will be here in this button here, and then also linking and sharing. This is some of the features that we want to build right now. So that takes me through the general features, form, and function of the reading room. And if you have additional questions, please feel free to ask during the Q&A.
Great, thank you, Jeff. And we'll open up for questions in a moment. Just 2 things before we do. First, in the future, we'll be featuring texts that demonstrate the relevance of the Buddha's teachings to the modern world. For example, the Sutra of the 10 Wheels has military advice for present-day leaders about governance, the economy, and military involvement. Other texts have timely advice about health, psychology, the process of death and dying, financial management, harmony in the family and society and among religions, and more. Second, we have at this very moment about 60 texts in the process of being translated by 100 translators. All the translations that have been published or are underway to date have been made possible by 75 founding sponsors who have made donations of $50,000 or more, and by close to 1,000 people who sponsored 3,680 pages of translation at $200 per page, $250 per page. So how quickly we can translate the remaining 66,000 pages of the Ganjru depends on funding. If you click on the sponsors button that Jeff showed you earlier, you can easily make a donation if you are so inclined. We invite you to become a part of this very exciting process of making sure that the words of the Buddha are preserved for and made accessible to all of humanity for centuries to come. One-time or recurring donations of all sizes are most welcomed. 84,000 has a very small staff and benefits from a great deal of volunteer effort. For this reason, our overhead is very low, only about 8% of our total budget. This means that almost all of every dollar donated goes directly into paying for translating text and publishing them on the reading room. Thank you for listening so patiently. Now it's time to hear from you. If you have a question, please raise your hand by clicking on the hand button and wait until we call on you to ask your question. 那现在是问答时间，如果你有什么问题，你可以这时候提问。Oh, I see a question by Christian Magis. I hope I'm getting the name right. Can we have access to the Tibetan text when reading the translation? Now Jeff is able to answer this question.
Yes. The next, we really have to go through step by step in the project, but definitely some of the functionality that we want to build this year, next year, is connecting up the translation with the source text. So yes, the Tibetan text itself is available along with the translation, and it's just a matter of actually hooking that up inside the reading room application. Yeah, but not right now.
Anybody else having any question? Well, it looks like we've answered every question that you might have. All right, wonderful. Well, I'm glad that you all actually have joined us in this live tour. Feel free to email any questions if you have down the road. You can contact us at info@84,000.co. So thank you again, Jeff, and thank you every one of you for your time and attention and for your ongoing support. We hope you visit the reading room often. Give us feedback so that we can improve. Please also help us to spread the word and encourage more people to read the words of the Buddha. Thank you and goodbye.